You're listening to the Membership Geeks podcast, bringing you proven practical tips and advice from the leading experts on growing a successful membership business.
Hey there, membershipper. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's episode of the Membership Geeks podcast. I'm Mike Morrison, your host for the show and the founder of Membership Geeks and Membership Academy. And this is the place to be for proven practical tips and advice, insights, ideas, and inspiration to help grow your membership business and ensure that it lasts the long haul. So this week, we're talking about AI. Yes, I know you're sick of hearing about it. I'm sick of hearing about it, but it is here. It is everywhere. You can't escape it. It's in your feeds, your inbox, your search results. AI slop. You probably heard the term. You probably know what it is. And even if you've not seen anybody use that terminology before, you know what I mean, right? It seems like we are drowning in lazy, low-effort, AI-generated slop. For some of the fantastic things that AI enables us to do, it makes people who are lazy by nature even lazier and actually makes them able to churn out something that is passable as written content. And we know that it's rubbish. We know it's generic. We can tell that they've not written it. They don't actually have the expertise, but our audiences can't always discern that. The search engines can't always tell that. And so with all this AI generated mush, this slop, this garbage content, membership owners have a bit of a problem on our hands because for so many of us, content marketing for the longest time has been a huge part of how we attract our audience, how we demonstrate our expertise, build trust, entice them onto our email list and into our memberships. It's content that we've used to show people that we're credible, that we know what we're talking about, we know what we're doing, and that we can be trusted to solve their problems. And as such, it's worth joining us inside our memberships. But when people are using AI tools like ChatGPT, like Claude, to churn out generic, personality-free, copy and paste regurgitated content at a massive scale, it doesn't matter how good your blog content is, because it's going to get buried. Your audience is going to have less and less trust because we don't always know, we can't tell whether we're reading something that is genuinely coming from the person whose name is attached to it, or whether they've just cobbled it together in a few minutes from whatever ChatGPT has spat out. So the noise is just getting unbearable, and great content is getting lost in the midst of that. So how do you stand out when everyone else is pumping out this garbage, low-quality, forgettable AI slop at a record speed and record levels? So that's what I want to get into in today's episode. And there's a few things that I think we can do as membership owners. The first is to move beyond just the written word. So a lot of what is being churned out is written content. You can use AI to automatically produce podcasts, and in fact there's podcast networks popping up these days where every show and every host is totally AI generated, but they are so blatantly not human, like you can tell. And for now, one of the easiest ways to rise above from that slop is to simply show up in the formats that require an actual human presence, an actual personality, a voice, a face. So doing video, expanding into podcasts, doing live streams, running webinars and live workshops. You can still utilize AI. AI can still play a part in that, but you can actually utilize AI as a resource, as something that helps you research, that helps you refine, that helps you shape ideas. But people can't use AI to replace an actual person, an actual human, on camera or behind a mic, as much as they're trying. Yes, I realize as I'm saying that there are services that will create a digital avatar, but it's so clearly not you. It's not you. And so your irreplaceable voice that doesn't always come through in written content is able to get across when you're on camera, when you're behind a mic. AI cannot replace that convincingly, not with any level of authenticity. AI can't bring the nuance, the timing, the humour, the energy, the presence, the human element that builds trust, that builds connection. And that trust and that connection is going to become even more important as we move forward for membership owners. Because as we said, your audience isn't always going to know who they can trust. They're not going to really be able to tell between something that's written by a human and something that's written by AI. So if they can see your face, they can hear your voice. That's why it works so well for building that relationship. It's why podcasts like this one are so important. Your voice, your face, your humanity, your personality, these are impossible to replicate. So now is a very important time to expand into the content mediums where you still get ahead and you still stand out by being human, by being real, by being authentic. And speaking of that authenticity, this is going to be a big thing because we can't just dish out generic advice. We can't just kind of read through that same list of, 5 top ways of doing X, Y, Z. You've got to come out with an opinion. You've got to have a perspective, a stance. AI can summarize things, it can paraphrase, it can mix different sources around, but AI doesn't have a perspective. It doesn't care. It doesn't get heated up about something. It doesn't stand for or against anything. It doesn't attempt to convince. It doesn't attempt to make a strong argument. It doesn't feel, obviously. And so one of the most powerful ways of standing out right now in your content is to have a strong point of view and actually have the courage to get that across. So what are your values? What are your opinions? What frustrates you about your industry? What common advice do you disagree with? What hill will you die on when it comes to your perspective, your standpoint, your opinion on the way things should work and the way things should be done within your space? Your opinion is going to be a differentiator. Your voice, your actual voice, not the polished voice that you put on in your content, your real voice. That's going to be the differentiator. And you know what? When you turn up with strong perspective, with a strong stance, and you do it in an audio format, you do it in a video format, people will actually see that you care about this stuff. And that's relatable. That connects with people. That draws people in. And that can't be replicated by AI slop. Something else that can cut through the kind of noise and all that sort of stuff is actually sharing stories, sharing legitimate case studies and examples. Real people, real member wins, real things that are going on inside your community. Stuff that, again, is verifiable, has a face to it, has a name to it, has a human attached to this story. Or showing the behind the scenes of your own journey, how you solved a challenge within your life or your business with this topic, what you experimented with, what worked and what didn't. AI can invent stories, but they fall apart. AI can fake conversations, but they're not verifiable, they're not credible. You're not going to have the other party in that conversation turning up in the comments saying, oh yeah, this was a really good chat. It can't replicate any of that. Storytelling always works well in general. And if you can actually show people real case studies, real examples that they can relate to, that again, show the human part, show that another person has gone down a path, has followed certain steps, that's going to stand out so much more compared to the typical ChatGPT generated guide or blog article. Something else, and again, we just touched on it, that is really, really going to help set you apart is kind of opening the curtain. Show the work, show the behind the scenes. There's no better way of showing the human side of what you do than by showing people the ugly, showing people the reality. We all know for so many years, social media has just become this curated highlight reel where everyone projects this version of themselves that they want other people to believe is reality. But actually, more and more people want to see the real. They want to see the process. They want to see the messy version. They want to see the work. They want to see the real human. The stuff that AI will churn out is always going to be generic. It's always going to be a bit more polished, a bit more perfect, a bit middle of the road. If you can actually share the real behind the scenes on your Instagram stories, breaking down a process on a live stream, not worrying about editing tightly, not worrying about the polish, and you let people in on how your thought process goes, how you're making decisions, what you're struggling with. Actually not being afraid to say that you're struggling, to be a little vulnerable. what you're experimenting with, what you're excited about, what you're disappointed with. Again, that insight, bringing people a little closer in, that's going to build connection. It's going to build trust. And you shouldn't worry that doing this will in some way erode your authority, because actually it'll do the opposite. And on a similar kind of vein, share your mistakes, share the outtakes. We all screw up every single day in big and small ways, but we try and hide it. We try and mask it. We don't want people to see this. This is what we need to be sharing, what we need to be showing. Be unmistakably human, unmistakably real. Talk about the stuff that goes wrong. Share the embarrassing stuff, the missteps. Show the outtakes. Literally, about 10 minutes ago, when I was recording an intro for the episode, last week's episode, by the time these go out, my throat closed up and made a really strange noise. And you know what I did? I took a video of my screen with that noise on loop because it sounded like a demented goose. And I put it out on social media on my on the Membership Geeks Instagram channel at Membership Geeks. You want to follow? I put it out there and just kind of put it as an Instagram story. It said, when you get possessed by a demonic goose midway through podcast editing, like that sort of stuff is the little bits, the little real moments that is going to connect. And of course, no one's going to see that story and think, great, this guy knows everything about memberships. I'm going to go join that membership site. But it's about the whole experience. It's about fleshing out so that people aren't just exposed to your content. They're also getting to know you. They're getting to connect with you, with the person, because that's important for selling and promoting your membership. Because if you are doing things right in your membership, you are a presence within your membership community. You are going to be teaching people stuff. You're going to be communicating with them. And so if people resonate with you as a person, with you as a teacher, and they're not just resonating with the expert content you put out, then that's going to deepen the relationship, deepen the trust, deepen the connection that will have them sticking around longer within your membership business. So show the screw ups. Tell the stories that you've always been a little nervous to tell. Show the failures. Share the outtakes. We make mistakes all the time. AI makes mistakes, but it very, very confidently makes mistakes. It doesn't necessarily always know or admit to the fact it's made mistakes. You can admit to it. You have the human capacity to own up to that sort of stuff, to make light of it, to share it, to create the connection by being real, by being vulnerable, by bringing the humanity back into the way in which you show up online. I think a lot of people are worried that we're kind of getting to a point where we're just going to be overtaken by AI content. And it's a strange place to be in, because right now we've got this weird little feedback loop where the AI tools have scraped content from the internet to then create new content for lazy people. Those lazy people put that content on the internet, and the AI tools scrape that content again and again and again. And so with every cycle, it gets a little less original. It gets a little weaker. The slop kind of seeps in. So it's like photocopying a photocopy of a photocopy. Eventually, it just looks grey and dull. And so that's something that we're going to have to deal with going forward. But that also, I think, is going to create a greater distinction between the people who do the kind of stuff that I've shared here and the people who still just do things the way they've always done it. That's certainly something that's going to shape the content marketing world going forward. But personally, I feel that AI's impact on content has already peaked. Everyone knows that you can do this. Everyone's tried it. People have kind of already decided or settled into the way in which they're going to be using it. You have people who are looking for responsible ways to utilize AI for what it is, a tool, something which can assist. But then there are people who have settled in and become very comfortable and very carried away with abusing it, with using it as a shortcut, using it as a reason to be lazy. But whichever side of that coin that you're on, I think we can safely say the novelty phase of AI has gone. I don't think there's a single person who's creating content for their business who isn't aware that they could be using ChatGPT to churn out a blog post. So I think we've kind of hit that high level of awareness already. I think we've hit peak AI slop awareness. And we are already starting to see more and more of a pushback. Now, on a larger scale, Just recently in the news, a lawsuit that's been filed by George R. R. Martin, the author of the Fire and Ice series, Game of Thrones. Him and a whole bunch of other authors are filing a class action lawsuit against OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT. And they've recently just kind of been given the go-ahead by the legal system to say that, yes, you can actually proceed with this case. This is a viable case. So that's potentially going to have a massive impact. But we are also seeing creators pushing back. People who are intentionally pushing more and more into the kind of things I've shared about. Storytelling, personality, showing more of the behind the scenes. Who've recognised how much more important it is to do that than to put out the same kind of content that maybe they've been doing for the last 10 years or so. And people are already starting to be drawn a little more to that. You're also starting to see a lot more conversation on AI happening on social platforms like LinkedIn. I swear my LinkedIn feed is about 60% people talking about AI content, patting themselves on the back for the fact that they can, tell if an article's being written by AI, sharing the red flags that tell you something's artificial and not real. So people are pushing back. Opinions really swaying against AI, and the platforms are pushing back as well. Because you're seeing things like YouTube. YouTube is starting to demonetize AI-generated content. I believe LinkedIn and possibly now Instagram are requiring AI-generated content to be explicitly stated. TikTok is requiring disclosure. If you watch a TikTok video that consists of AI content, it has a big warning on it. Algorithms are throttling AI-written content. There are tools coming out that are watermarking or putting a little hidden fingerprint into AI content as well, so it can be more easily detected. When you consider that we probably have hit peak AI content slop awareness, and now it's actually starting to get that pushback, to get the guardrails in place through social, through search, then I do think that maybe the problem doesn't subside, but it's certainly not going to be this continuously escalating issue that would result in basically it becoming redundant to produce content. But it does mean we just need to be a little scrappier. We need to embrace what AI can't create. Real voices, real stories, real expertise, real life, real humans. To stand out in a world of AI slop, you really do need to focus on the things that AI just can't replicate. Your unique perspective, your unique story, your voice, your passion, your sense of humor, your experience, your battle scars, the mistakes, the wins, all of this to create a genuine connection to your audience. And this isn't demonizing AI. There are some people who will not go anywhere near AI. It's just saying, don't use AI to think for you, and certainly don't use AI to shortcut and cheat content creation that is supposed to be showing your expertise, that is designed to build trust. Because if you're cheating to build trust, then that's not trust. That's manipulation. And that is not something that will bode well for either you or your audience in the long run. So this has been a little bit of a, semi-existential crisis type podcast episode, but hopefully it's given a little bit of insight. Hopefully it's given you a new perspective, my unique perspective on what it's going to take and where we need to be putting our efforts. And of course, this factors into your membership too. You cannot center your membership's value proposition on just content. You've never been able to. I've been preaching this forever. You shouldn't be talking about how people need to join your membership because it's got the most content. People don't want stuff. They want what the stuff makes possible. They want what the content makes possible. They want results. But they also want connection. They want you. They want real. They want human. They want to be able to trust in you. So everything I'm talking about here comes into your membership as well. Look for ways in which you can harness community. Look for ways in which you can show up for your members, to personalize, to tailor. Don't fall into the trap of getting lazy and using AI to churn out content just for the sake of having something to put in your membership. Keep your eye on what's really important for your members. And through doing that, both within your member experience and within your marketing, you will stand out against the ever-increasing flood of AI slop that hopefully in coming years is going to start to ease. That is it from me. I hope you have found this episode useful. It's felt, as I've been recording it, a little bit of a different one, a bit of a strange one, but hopefully a one that has been valuable to you nonetheless. I'd love to hear your perspectives, your thoughts on this. Let's have a conversation. Let's connect. Let's chat. Let's trade opinions. Let's disagree. Let's argue. Let's come together. Hit me up on social media at Membership Geeks. If you are in the academy, of course, we always chat about stuff like this in there. Start a thread, start the conversation, weigh in with your thoughts. I'd love it if you disagree with me. I'd love it if you agree with me. I just love it if you have an opinion and a perspective that you're willing to share. And if you're not in the academy, get yourself in there. Head over to membershipacademy.com. Let's chop it up. Let's have a chat about how we can face the opportunities and threats presented by AI as membership owners. That's it for me for this week. Thanks ever so much for joining me. If this was your first episode, make sure you hit subscribe if you've enjoyed the show. That will ensure that every weekly episode makes its way directly to you. And if you are a subscriber already, know that I love and appreciate each and every one of you for every second of your attention that you give me. Thank you so much for your continued support, and I hope that you'll join me next week for another episode of the Membership Geeks podcast. I'll see you then. If you enjoyed this week's episode of the Membership Geeks podcast, we invite you to check out membershipacademy.com. Membership Academy is the original membership about memberships, and it's the essential resource for anyone at any stage of starting, growing, and running a successful online membership business. Whether you're still trying to figure out what your idea is going to be and you need some help making it a reality, or whether your website is already up and running and you're looking for ways to grow and attract new members, then Membership Academy can help you to get to the next level. Not only do you get access to our step-by-step membership roadmap, our extensive training library, and exclusive member-only discount and tools, you'll also become part of our supportive, active community of membership owners that will help you along the way in your journey with feedback, encouragement, and advice. All of this and more make Membership Academy the #1 place to be for anyone looking to start, manage, and grow a successful membership business. Check it out and join the community at membershipacademy.com.